Hi guys, welcome back to another crash course video with me, Gabby Remy. Today we'll be talking about the novel The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. Let's get started. So this story takes place on a Indian reservation in Spokane, Washington. On this reservation, we are introduced to a young man named Junior and his family. So, ever since Junior was a young boy, he had always been bullied. Junior had always been bullied because he was born with spinal fluid in his brain. After a surgery as an infant, Junior was left with speech problems, learning disabilities. He had always been bullied by other kids. He was smaller than them. He had glasses. His head was shaped differently because of the surgery. But that didn't stop Junior. Junior had high hopes for himself. Junior wanted to be a cartoonist. Junior loved drawing. Junior was smart. And so Junior starts his first day of high school, and he cannot wait for geometry class. He loves geometry. He loves math. And I don't think I've ever read a book or even in reality met somebody who has wanted to go to geometry class. Anyways, besides the point, Junior walks into his class and his teacher, Mr. P, in the book on page 28, it says that, let me tell you, Mr. P is a weird-looking dude. No matter how weird he looks, he's absolutely the weirdest thing about him is Mr. P is that sometimes he forgets to come to school. Let me repeat that. Mr. P sometimes forgets to come to school. Yep, we would have to send a kid down to the teacher's housing compound behind the school to wake up Mr. P, who's always conking out in front of his TV. And the picture that is described of Mr. P is right here. We have nose hairs. He's bald, 4 feet tall, has dandruff, food stains on his shirt, says maybe 50 pounds, but only when he's carrying his 15-pound briefcase. And Junior doesn't like Mr. P. Junior thinks it's a joke that he has this boring, old, forgetful teacher when all he wants to do is learn. Junior feels he cannot be at his full potential with this teacher. And I think we've all felt like that. Like, in all honesty. And one thing that really just sets Junior over the moon is when Mr. P hands out the geometry textbooks. Junior opens his, just opens it, and it reads, what was it? On page 31, it says, "But my lips and I stopped short when I saw this written on the inside front cover. This book belongs to Agnes Adams." Okay, now you're probably asking yourself, who is Agnes Adams? Well, let me tell you. Agnes Adams is my mother. My mother! So, I guess you could say Junior is very upset that he is getting the same education as his parents. He isn't given opportunities and he isn't shown that he's cared about or that his education is cared about. So, out of reaction, he picks up the book and throws it, and it hits Mr. P straight in the face. So now you might be asking, how did Mr. P react? What happened to Junior? Well, kind of a no-brainer, but Junior got suspended. Now, for this next segment of our crash course video, I will be reading out of the novel itself. I'm going to be starting on page 33. So, it says, I was ashamed. I had never really been in trouble before. A week into my suspension, I was sitting on our front porch thinking about stuff, contemplating when Mr. Old P walked up our driveway. He had a big bandage on his face. I'm sorry about your face, I said. I'm sorry they suspended you, he said. I hope you know that wasn't my idea. After I smashed him in the face, I figured that Mr. P wanted to hire a hitman. Well, maybe that's taking it too far, but Mr. P didn't want me dead. But I don't think he would have minded if I'd been the only survivor of a plane that crashed into the Pacific Ocean. And it shows a small illustration. At the very least, I thought they were going to send me to jail. Can I sit down with you? Mr. P asked. You bet, I said. I was nervous. Why was he being so friendly? Was he planning a sneak attack on me? Maybe he was going to smash me in the nose with a calculus book. But the old guy just sat in peaceful silence for a long time. On to the next page, page 34. I didn't know what to say or do, so I just sat as quietly as he did. So, moving on to the book, Mr. P tells him, it's okay that you hit me in the face with a book. That was out of anger. You have every single right to be angry, and you should not be ashamed for that. You are upset you didn't get an education. You're upset that you can't do this, that you can't do that. And Mr. P basically tells him, it's okay. I understand. I know where you're coming from. So Mr. P tells Junior, you know what? Go find hope. Go out there and do what you want to do. Be what you want to be. Don't stay on this reservation. You will not survive on this reservation. It's like the next episode of Survivor or something on the Indian reservation. But anyways, and Junior says, Mr. P, where is hope? Who has hope if we don't have hope? Mr. P says, the white people off the reservation. So you know what Junior does? Next day, Junior goes up to his parents and says, I want to go to Reardon. And Reardon is a small farm town high school with big kids, football playing kids, basketball playing kids that would just squash Junior, basically. But his parents say, yeah, you know what? Sure, we'll do it. We'll work extra shifts. We'll save up money just for you to be happy and to chase your dream. And in all reality, to wrap up this crash course video, I wanted to let all of you know, don't let anybody tear you down or ruin what you want because their opinions say otherwise, because society says otherwise. Be you. Do what you want to do, and don't let other people stop you. So, a little background about the story is Junior was... I cannot focus. It's a no-brainer, but Junior got suspended. Yeah.